Hello, good morning. I'm Tammy, and you are watching Forever Altered. I want to thank all of my new subscribers. It's exciting to know that my message is being heard and maybe helping someone. Today's topic is a pretty difficult one, very close to my heart. I have a lot of experience with, and I thought maybe some could use this information to uplift them during the holiday season. After the death of a child, the dreaded holidays come upon you, and you have no choice but to plug away. And you question whether you're going to survive the holidays. And my son's been gone almost 10 years now. My nephew has been gone 11 years. My grandson has been gone 5 years. So it's a pretty big topic to me. And I have seen my own progression from the first year to now. And so I'm hoping that I can give you some tools to help you over the holidays. If you haven't lost a child, and I suppose this would also apply to anyone that was close to you, but if you haven't lost someone in your immediate family that was integral to your existence, you probably don't even understand the depth and despair that the holiday season can bring onto a person who has suffered that kind of loss. When you have no joy in your normal existence, it's just magnified during a joyful season. When it's supposed to be a joyful and happy season, and you're supposed to be celebrating, and yet your child is gone and can no longer celebrate these things, and history is, it's got the end stamp at the end of the story. It makes it really, really difficult to find joy during the holidays, or during birthdays, or any type of celebration. But Christmas is brutal. So I want to talk a little bit about how I've evolved, and then I want to share with you some things that I do and that I think might help you. The first few years, and this is just off the cuff, so the first few years were terrible. We had adopted 3 children, and I was trying so hard to be the mom they needed in the midst of my loss. And I knew that it wasn't their fault that this had happened to me, to us. Actually happened before their adoption was even finalized. So it was like in the midst of this huge life change, my son was killed in a car wreck. So the first few years, I literally fled my home during the holidays. I couldn't even imagine setting up a tree. A tree? Why? And I knew that was so unfair to the girls. So we went to Florida. We actually took off and went to Florida. And we ended up celebrating Christmas there, but the fact that it was a different area, it wasn't my home where I could connect all the memories of prior Christmases, was completely different. I'm used to snow. There was no snow there. We were doing things like going to the beach and just walking in shops, and we did all kinds of fun stuff. But Goodwill, we love to go to Goodwill because you can always get things, real inexpensive there, and you don't have to spend $40 for a Florida t-shirt. But anyway, so that was the easiest way for me to deal with it, was to bring myself into, and if you can't afford to go to Florida, you can always go anywhere else, just a little distance away, somewhere that is not your normal place of celebrating. That helped me. I think I did that for maybe 3 or 4 years in a row before I could handle the idea of being home at Christmas. Then I got to be where I could handle it. I could put up the tree, minimally handle it. Before, my son died, I was huge on holidays. I decorated my entire house. I owned a flower shop, so I did a lot of decorating in other people's houses. And so I, of course, did my own. I did garlands, I did multiple trees, I did lights everywhere, snowman and Santa. I had collections of snowmen and Santas, so I had like a lot of Christmas stuff, wreaths, and I made my own wreaths for the doors. And so it was a stark change from a super holiday to nothing, and then eventually to a minimal holiday where I could put the tree up and I could, fake it till you make it, so to speak, and be with the girls and let them open their presents and be joyful in that. But there was always this underlying sadness, and there still is, and there will always be, I believe. But now my girls are actually grown and they're out on their own, and I have a new child, a little girl who is 3.5, who was born 25 years apart from my son. So I had my son biologically, then I had 25 years later my daughter, and in the middle I adopted my 3 daughters. So now I'm starting all over again. And today, or this year I should say, this week I did a lot of decorating. I got my snowman collection out, and I put lights up, and I put garlands up, and I made a wreath for my front door. And so those are things that make me know that I survived, and are glimpses of the old me before Brandon died. So my best suggestions, that's enough of my story, but my best suggestions for surviving the holidays. I think that going into the holidays, the best thing you can do for yourself is to have a survival game plan ready. There are basically 2 things that you need to focus on in order to survive the holidays. And 2 main things, obviously there's lots of things, but the first thing is you need to take care of you. You need to make sure you're taking care of you during the holidays. If you aren't okay, then no one else will be. If you are depressed and letting that depression creep in, and you know what I mean when I say that. When you're in trouble, when that depression starts creeping in. And if you're not taking charge of that and doing something proactive, you can't help anybody else. You can't be there for anybody else. So it's important that you take care of you. And then the second thing is you need to make space for your child during the holidays. You need to make sure that there is space for them in your celebrations, in your day-to-day living during the holiday season. It's important to do these 2 things all the time, but it's especially important to do them during times when you could be at risk, and you are at risk for a great depression to set in over you. And I know that if you're here and you're watching this and you've gone through what I've gone through, and you've lost a child, or I've even talked to people who have lost multiple children in accidents and lots of things. But if you are here, you know what I mean by that. When you can feel grief and depression coming over you like a heavy blanket and like a smothering blanket, you're in trouble. And so you have to be aware of those things. You have to be proactive, or it will get the best of you, and it'll be too late. And there are lots and lots of people, lots of parents. I have been in groups where parents have actually committed suicide during the holidays. It is a crucial time to take care of yourself, extremely crucial. So my suggestions for taking care of you, and by the way, please comment on this video and add your own suggestions for these, your own ideas, because I'm hoping that through a collaborative effort we can come up with a really good list of things to carry us through the holidays. So the suggestions I have for you to take care of yourself. First, set intentions to continue healing. set the intention that you are going to continue healing, that you are not going to allow a setback, and a setback being, a very big depression coming over you. You're going to have some depression, but I think you know the difference. You know the difference between the daily feeling of sadness that you have to learn to live with because you've lost your child, and that debilitating depression that is putting your life in jeopardy. And I've been there several times over the past 10 years. So if you don't see them coming, they will hit you like a Mack truck. And you have to be very careful not to let that happen. So set the intention now that you will continue your healing, that you will not allow these setbacks to come at you. And what's the best reason for that? The best reason for that is to honor your child. I can say for myself, my son was so much like me. He was very driven, and he was very goal-oriented, and he loved life, and he was not afraid of working hard to seek what he wanted and desired. Even at 18, he wanted to be a Marine from early on, year 14, I think he started, and he was a Marine when he died. He died in a car wreck, but he had already accomplished the main goal he had for himself up to that point. So why do I want to set the intentions to continue my healing? Because I'm going to honor my child, and I'm going to live the best life that I can, despite this tragic event that has happened and has altered the course of his life and my life and everyone around us. I will honor him, and that's how I'll do it. Another way to take care of yourself is acknowledge the grief. Acknowledge it. Don't avoid it. That's when it can creep up on you. It's just going to build and build and build, and suddenly, boom, it bursts up like the Grim Reaper out of the bushes. And it's so big and huge and heavy, and it's not manageable. So acknowledge it. Acknowledge that it's there. It is work. Grief is work. People can say, here's the stages, the different stages of grief. And yes, there are stages. What really isn't clear to you is that you will progress frontwards and backwards and sideways and in and out, and there will be so many different paths through that, and everyone will be different. But you have to acknowledge it. You have to acknowledge that it is there, and you have to continue that grief walk. You have grief work to do. You have to acknowledge that it's there in order to work through it. Another thing is to take time out to cry. There's times when you just need to cry, and suppressing it doesn't help. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help you, and it certainly doesn't help the people around you. A lot of people that you will come in contact with are fearful of your crying, and I'm sure you already know that, but they tiptoe around, and they don't want to mention your child's name because that might make you cry. And just express to them whenever you can that you're okay with crying, that you can handle the crying, that is how you cleanse your soul. It is now how you remember. There will be a time down the road when you can sometimes not cry when you're thinking of your child, but you will probably always have those feelings erupt when you're talking about your child and you miss your child. So people need to know that you're okay with crying, and you need to claim that and say, don't worry if I cry. I'm fine. I need to cry. Crying is remembering to me. So keep that in mind. Also talk to trusted friends and family. Keep the communication lines open, especially during the holidays. Some people don't want to hear it. Some people get tired of hearing it. Some people just freak out because they don't know how to handle it and they don't know what to say to you. But everybody has those trusted friends and family that they can use as their support network. Find them and use them. Talk to them. Talk to them about your child. Talk to them about how you're feeling. Talk to them if you feel depressed. And then another thing that brings me to is get yourself in therapy if you aren't already. If you feel that you need therapy, then you need to get yourself in therapy. I can tell you my own experience with therapy. When my son died, I actually worked in a mental health facility. So I had therapists around me all over the place. And I had opportunities to talk to them. And I remember this feeling. I remember feeling like, if you have not lost a child, I can't imagine how you could help me. But I did utilize them. But I will tell you that a trusted friend or family member who is intelligent and thoughtful and thought-provoking will go a long way as well if you are not in therapy, if you cannot afford therapy. If you can, find a therapist that fills that bill for you. Maybe in your area there is a therapist that specializes in grief that you can identify with, that has had something similar go on in their lives. I'm not a therapist, but I try really hard to be therapeutic and talk to others who have had similar losses. Well, I guess that's what I'm doing here, but because of that need that I had, because I felt like I, had, if I had a therapist that had lost a child and they were sitting across from me, and I could see that they survived, that they're still alive, and that they can actually smile once in a while, and have enjoyment and joy in their lives, then that would have went a long way. But therapy, even if you need to be on some antidepressant medicine during the holidays, or I went that route too. I mean, there were, in the beginning, I had to be on antidepressant medicines, and I think probably 3 or 4 times since then, I have felt that debilitating depression coming on, and I knew I was in trouble, and I was like sinking. I could feel it. And so I went back to my doctor and got, back on the meds, and it did help. It made a big difference. So don't be afraid to get therapy, and don't be afraid to talk to your doctor about proper meds that may help you with some of the thick grief that you might not feel you can get out of on your own, no matter what you do. Also, I would recommend, along with that you find your own healing outlets. Find whatever it is that speaks to you, that assists you or helps you. Meditation is a big one for me. It was huge for me in the beginning. Huge. I mean, I really think it sort of saved my life, because I learned how to meditate, and I did it a lot. I did guided meditations because I wasn't that good at it at that point to understand what to do. So I found guided meditations. There are lots of them. There are lots of them on YouTube. You can just type in guided meditations and you'll find all kinds of them. I liked Kelly Howell, guided meditations by Kelly Howell, but there are also lots of them. Other ones that are really good. So try that. Mindfulness meditations, very, very good and very positive for your spirit. Prayer. If prayer helps you and you feel positive about that, then set an intention to pray every day, to give over your grief, the management of your grief walk to God. Another idea is journaling or crafts or scrapbooking, something like that. So one of the healing outlets that I chose was I started making jewelry out of gemstones. I started studying about healing gemstones, and then I made jewelry that was, that coincided with the different healing properties I was looking for. So that's another option. And in that regard, if you decided to do something like that, it would be a great Christmas present. You could make your own pieces and you could give those out as Christmas presents, or you could sell them for a little extra money during the holidays. Just an idea, but that focuses on you and gives you some positive energy. Another thing that you can do to take care of yourself is, and I recommend you do this all the time, but especially during the holidays, contemplate your belief system. Educate yourself and strengthen your own personal belief system. And I'm not going to go into, what that might be or what is or is not appropriate, because it's different for everybody. But whatever your belief system is, contemplate that, educate yourself, and strengthen your position of it, so that you are not shaken, so that your core is not shaken, and you'll always have people, wanting to interject and add in. But if you are strong in your own belief system, whatever that is, and I'm going to assume it's a healthy belief, let's just say it's a healthy belief system, then the stronger and more educated you are about it, the less likely you will be to be shaken, and it will be easier to remind yourself of, the situation and how you see it and how you believe it to be. So with that, the last thing I would suggest about taking care of yourself is consider and think about your child in his or her new home. Imagine how they fill their days, whatever you feel is their new home. I believe in heaven, and I believe my child is there. I will tell you that, and I don't want this to be a discussion about religion, but I will tell you that I raised my son in church, and he was a Christian also, but my belief system widened, got deeper after he died. And I began to wonder, what on earth, what do we do once we go to the other side? And so whatever that is for you, consider that. If you believe that the soul moves on, then consider, what is your child, then you would believe your child still exists, which is what I believe. I do believe that. Others may not, and I don't want to be offensive to anyone else, because we all have our own path and our own journey to make. But if you believe the soul goes on, then consider and think about what your child is doing and where your child is. And I know my child was, like I said, he was very driven in this world, and he was very helpful and very kind and helpful. That'll make me cry. So I can only imagine that he is helping others as they cross over. So anyway, so the next thing, or the second part of this video, is to help you to find ways to make space for your child during the holidays. So I think it's extremely important for holiday survival for you to make sure that you're making a space for your child to be in the holiday season, for your child to be remembered, for you to feel that your child is included in the holiday season. So implement ways to remember and acknowledge your child's existence. One way, for instance, could be a memory tree. Set a place setting at the table when you're sitting down at Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner, whatever that is for you. Light a candle. A candle, is a common way to remember someone. So, light a candle. At least light a candle on Christmas Day, but maybe you'll light a candle every day in the morning or in the evenings before you, for an hour before you go to bed or something, where you're lighting that candle and you're doing it purposefully lighting it in memory of your child. And, maybe you want to light it and sit down for 15 minutes or something and just think about the memories you had, or talk to them even. Another way to help you make space for your child is to write down your feelings and your thoughts to your child. Write them in the form of a letter or a blog or a diary or a journal, whatever whatever feels like it speaks to you. If you don't like to write a lot, then just write a letter. Just write a simple little letter to your child. when my son died, we were in the process of adopting the children. It was very hard for them because they had already suffered loss. They suffered the losses of their biological families. They both had all three of them had other siblings, and they had obviously mothers. I had two children had shared one bio mom, and one child was alone. So I had two bio moms that they had lost. They all had different fathers, and they had never even known mostly. So they had already suffered a lot of loss, and here they're coming into a family who loses a child in the midst of it all. So we had a tablet that it was actually my son's tablet, and it sat in his bedroom on his desk by his computer. And we left it there, and I think it was my ex-husband maybe that started it. He would sit in there, and so he would write to him. And as he did it, we all sort of followed suit. And when you were having a tough day, you might go in his room and spend some time in his room and write to him. And we still have it. Eventually we stopped because we were ready to stop. We stopped when we were ready to stop. But for a long time, we wrote in it. And I still have all of the whole tablet. And it's difficult to read because it's pretty raw stuff, but we shared our hearts, and the girls were able to still sort of get some closure and write down their feelings to the brother that they almost had, and it was therapeutic. So this time is a good time to spend a little personal therapy and write down your feelings, and write them to your child. Write them as if he's going to read them, as if she's going to read them. Write from your heart. And it will also be a tool for you down the road for you to look back on and see how far you've progressed. See how far you have progressed. When you think, I'm stuck in the mud, I am not going anywhere. And I am, when you look back on these things, you realize that, yes, grief is a walk, and I am still moving forwards. I may take some steps backwards, but I am still moving in the general direction of forwards. So another great way to make space for your child is to purchase a gift. Purchase a gift for your child, or a couple of gifts, whatever you feel like doing. I did that for quite a while. This is another idea, creating a cabinet to display your child's favorite things. So I'm going to say these two together because I created a cabinet that, when you're looking at all of the things that your child left behind, a whole bedroom full, a whole, whatever. It's a lot of stuff. And so you begin to weed through it, and you begin to narrow it back to what you feel you have to keep. And everybody's choices are different there. So I stored a lot of things. Of course, all the little papers from school, report cards, school pictures, book reports. I could go on and on, but I stored all of those. But there were some special things. He was in quizzing in Bible school, and he got lots of trophies. He was a brown belt in Taekwondo, and he had, all the belts, and he was a Marine, and so he had the uniform and the hat and the suit, all the stuff that goes with that. And we had an exchange student. My son was very, very, very interested in Korean culture. I'm not sure why, but he taught himself Korean. And we had an exchange student live with us for a year that was from Korea. And so he had a lot of Korean books and a Korean Bible and all of these things. So all these things that he loved video games, which 10 years ago was a lot of them they played on the computers or whatever. And anyway, he had a lot of those. I put the things that were his favorite in this big glass cabinet, and that's where I displayed them. And so when I would purchase a gift for my son, I would put it into the cabinet. So I purchased a few things that I knew that he would like. I have his cologne in there, and it was almost empty, so I got him another cologne. And to me, it was a way of remembering him. So that's just an idea. If you don't have a whole cabinet, you can easily whatever you need. One thing I will say. Some people might be saying, "Oh, I don't think I could look at the stuff every day because it would be a constant reminder." Well, I totally understand what you're saying, but from my experience, once your brain sees this particular display, eventually it gets used to it, and you can look at it and you can be okay. And you can even sometimes just gaze in there, and if you start picking up things, and I have boxes of letters he wrote from boot camp that were gut-wrenchingly sad, and I have letters his girlfriend wrote him while he was in boot camp, and all these things. And now if I get into that stuff, it is very painful. But just looking at the cabinet and having it in my dining room, I'm okay with. And the pictures that I keep on the fridge, or the pictures, the different displays that I'm aware of and I know they're there, are fine. If I go through something and I run across a different picture, then for that little bit of time, I'm thrown off kilter. But my mind adjusts to it, and I get comfortable with seeing it again, and then I'm okay. So if you are thinking that you're worried about that, you might want to just try it. Just try the little display or cabinet, or however you want to, and give it a few weeks, and see if it doesn't just make you, it comes to a point where you can look at it and you are okay with it. And then you feel like you're still honoring your child, and you have something. We can't hug our children anymore. I wish we could. But, we can look at the things that remind us of their existence. And if we put them all away in a box somewhere, to me, it seems like that would be a lot lonelier. So do what is right in your heart, but if you're worried about that, at least give it a shot. And if you purchase a gift, then you'll have a place to put it. It needs a place to go, so that's one way to do it. Making space for your child. Use your child's name often. Share memories. Go back to that list of trusted friends and family and share. And then the last thing, because this is a lot longer than I anticipated, the last thing I would say to you is join a group. There's Compassionate Friends. If you're not into actually going someplace and sitting face to face, which I did do Compassionate Friends for a while, but it was too far away from me. So I didn't like the drive, and it was, you would see them once a month, and there really wasn't any bonding. There was a new group coming, and there was never the same people, and so to me that was a good start. Definitely, I would definitely recommend that. And they sent me little reminder memory cards and stuff that made me feel included. So I want to say that I think it's an awesome group, but I also think that because of the distance, I wasn't able to be as involved as I needed to with a group like that. So there are many Facebook groups, I'm sure. I'm in a few, and in the beginning I was in there a lot, and I was the one needing help and guidance, and the most broken, and then after a while you start going up in the ranks as far as the distance and the time between your loss and other people's losses, and you start realizing that you're being a positive example, and an example that can show someone else that they really will survive, even though we don't believe we will. And so you begin to get your own therapeutic benefit out of that. And I don't live there. I, go there. I see messages from the group in my normal Facebook feed. And but when someone says and posts a picture of their child and says, today would have been my son's 12th birthday, or, whatever the situation, I take the time to comment. I take the time to hit the like button at least, something to acknowledge the existence of that person's child. So, and then when I feel I need that, it's there for me. And those people know what you have gone through. Outside of that group, and the groups I'm in are private, and so you feel like you can really just let your guts out in that room. You can really say if you need to, they will listen, and you will not be judged. So participate in the discussion in these groups, and I guarantee you, if you're there a while, you will start realizing that you have gone from being, the helped to the helping, the helped to the helper, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And you will find that you need the help less and less, and it gives you strength to help someone else. It gives you strength, but your heart breaks. Your heart breaks when you see someone come into the group, some new person come into the group and share their story that has just happened to them. And you're reminded of that walk and of those first few, the moment when your child died, or when you were told your child died, and then, the day, and then the week, and the first, when you went back to work, or, all those things, and you are reminded of that. But in that reminder is strength that you survived it. So, to end this, holidays are upon us, and there's no avoiding them. So, what can we do? 2 things. Take care of you and make space for your child during the holiday seasons. Please, please, please like this video, subscribe to my channel so that I know that these videos are worthy of my time. And have a great holiday season. Celebrate the life of your child. Celebrate the life of your child. Take care. Love you.